Hey, what up, guys? It's me again, and welcome to This Is My Moment podcast. I'm your host, Patrick Mitchell, and here at This Is My Moment, we love having a good time, we love meeting new people, and we love to see you smile. Let's go get it.
There ain't no stopping it, this is my moment. Join the movement, we bringing people together, bringing positivity, making changes for the better, cause it's all about...
Today, I have someone that's going to put us down on a little game. Be ready to be enlightened. Introduce yourself to the family.
Hey everyone, what's up? I'm Riana. Coach Riana Milne, they call me, but I'm also a licensed mental health counselor for 24 years in private practice. I'm a #1 best-selling author. I have a podcast called Lessons in Life and Love with Coach Riana Milne. I specialize in helping people who have childhood trauma that leads to love relationship trauma. I'm a grandmother of 6. I'm also Reverend Riana since 1996. I love to dance. My daughter sings on 3 multi-platinum CDs. She's also a top world coach. My other daughter is an advocate for history and keeping books in the schools.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm very well-rounded. There's a lot going on in my life. That's
to say the
me.
least. I'm going to tell you what, like all that stuff you said, I didn't see none of that when I was doing my research, so we may go off script a little bit.
That's fine. I'm ready for you.
So, yeah, I appreciate that. I want to jump right into it. What got you started in helping, like, teens and singles and couples? Like, that's a passion to me. People just don't be like, you know what? I want to go help out families and kids. You know what I mean? Like, what got you started?
Well, I've done many different types of jobs with children. I'm known also as the SAC counselor, student assistance counselor. So I was actually working with kids of trauma in every grade level from kindergarten through college. I was a school psychologist at Hackensack High School in northern New Jersey. And I worked with the emotionally upset kids. And a lot of kids identified as ADHD are actually coming from traumatic homes. So I was kind of like the woo-woo counselor that had meditation in my office. I had positive behavioral charts all over my walls in my office. We did talent shows where the kids that were the problem kids often were great singers and hip hop dancers and got them to be little stars of the show, the school. So I had them on the news and in the newspaper, and all of a sudden now they're becoming the leaders because they're using their talent to feel great about themselves. But I also worked with the kids in the mental health ward at a hospital in South Jersey, kids 5 through 19. So I had the kids that were suicidal, cutting, having eating disorders, drug and alcohol issues. I worked in a teen rehab center, and I worked with women from the prison system in a rehab center. So I had found through the years, no matter what the age, background, culture, race didn't matter. The top 10 childhood traumas were all very prevalent. And today, actually, my clients are men, women, straight, LGBTQ+, all races, all cultures from around the world. And I treat those only through the internet, ages 16 plus. My oldest client's 79. So, obviously, childhood trauma can be healed, but get it healed sooner than later because it really impacts 7 areas of your life. And the research shows 100% of us have some childhood trauma, and it definitely leads to love relationship trauma. So if you get this healed and you learn what I call the mindset for success, then you definitely have a much better, happier, successful, joyful life.
Yeah, let me ask you this. I think everyone, well, I'm not going to say everyone from where I came from has some kind of childhood trauma. It varies, and for me, like, we grew up poor, right? Like, we grew up poor. But my kids, I think, my kids didn't have that same poor...
that mindset, lack mindset.
We didn't have that. What I learned from my kids is that even though we tried to give them everything that we didn't have, right? We were those parents. Like, you're going to have everything that we didn't have. But you know what's funny is that they still have some kind of trauma, some kind of emotional, I guess, misstep. And I was like, man, I thought we were the perfect parents. Is there a correlation between like good parents and childhood trauma, bad parents and childhood? Like, I thought I was doing everything.
Yes and no, Patrick. I mean, actually, you could have a perfect household and be horribly bullied by a coach or a kid at
Mm,
school or in the neighborhood. What you grew up, you're referring to as I have top 10 traumas, and I developed a childhood trauma checklist in 2012. So,
mm-hmm,
trauma number 9 is growing up in a dangerous area or struggling financially. The family
mm,
was talking about the fears we can't pay the bills. And this is what often leads to a lack mindset. And a lack mindset can also be for the entrepreneur who wants to grow a business, but it's like, what? Coaching's 10,000. That's too much. What if it doesn't work for me? So it goes back to that subconscious fear of money is so rare and they don't invest in themselves. So, the lack mindset is something that can be overcome as well. But again, we all have something. So it could have been something inside the household or outside of the household. And there's
yeah.
10 of them, the top 10 traumas. Yeah.
So when you say childhood trauma, it may not necessarily be coming from adult to child. It could be peer to peer. Is what I'm hearing. Is that correct?
Yes, like trauma number 7, okay, is not feeling good enough. So let's say you're the only African American child in an all Caucasian school. You feel
Yeah.
different. Or it's coming up a chubby kid and you're teased for being overweight or skinny and you're called a nerd because you're smart. I
Yeah.
was bullied. I was a tall, skinny kid. So I was kind of nerdish with my big glasses on. Um, again, just being a different culture within the school or coming from the wrong side of the neighborhood.
Yeah.
It just felt different or identified as ADHD. I worked in the schools. The kids that hated that being pulled out for special classes.
Mm,
So there's so many different ways where kids just feel different or not good enough. And that stigma can stay with you for a while and
yeah.
impact your self-confidence and
Mm,
self-love as an adult. And we all need a healthy ego. That doesn't mean being bragging or narcissistic, but we all need to love and feel proud of who we are. So
yeah.
that's part of healing the trauma. When we say trauma, a lot of people think, does that mean you were in a car accident or
Right.
experienced a sexual infraction, something like that? Well, not really. That would be called a big T trauma. And then the little T traumas are the ongoing emotional things that happen. For example, trauma number 2 is verbal messaging. Did you hear the words, I love you? Did you hear, I'm proud of you, kiddo?
Mm,
Or did you hear messages of, you didn't try hard enough, that's not good enough, or change your clothes, you look fat in that?
mm,
What kind of messages did you hear?
yeah.
And that also includes, how did you watch mom and dad handle an issue? Were they
Mm,
yelling and fighting? And that's how they say, okay, well, that's how we handle an argument. Or when we're upset, we yell. That's modeling, right? You're modeling to your kids how to handle life issues. So, and then the verbal messaging between the parents. Are you seeing signs of affection? Or do you hear, I love you, honey? Or, just positivity within the home. So
yeah.
that's just trauma number 2. And then another big one is around abandonment. And that trauma is there's fault or no fault. So a no fault trauma is like if a parent happens to die early or a
Right.
parent off serving their country at war. Now, I was in the elementary school during Afghanistan and Iraq wars, and I had a lot of little children with moms and dads serving, and they would just be blank in school, like,
Mm-hmm.
and when they're nervous about when my mom and dad come home, they're not thinking about math facts.
Yeah.
And they can't focus. And when cortisol is up, which is anxiety and fear,
Mm-hmm.
memory and learning goes down.
Oh
So
wow.
many of these kids were diagnosed ADHD. Let's put them on drugs. I'm like, no, not so fast. Let
Yeah.
me come into my office. Let's do meditation. And I had low lighting. It was called Miss Riana's relaxation room. Then we had music therapy. And one of the songs that I liked the best, the artist, was Louis Miguel's music. And I'm not Spanish speaking, but they come in like, Miss Rihanna, will you put Mr. Louis on? I had a bad morning. And then
Yeah.
the teachers are like, what are you doing down there? They're like on drugs. They're coming back happy and, really kind and loving and
Yeah.
ready to learn. So I'm calming down the cortisol. So that then they're more open to learn. So there's a lot of behavior modification that can happen within the schools. And unfortunately, the SAC counselors are the first to be let go if there's a budget crisis, but they still keep
Yeah.
the football coach. I mean, like, go figure.
Let me ask you this, and I never thought about that. Me and my wife were active duty military. We're both active duty.
Well, thank you
And
for your service. I'm
no,
from
no
a
question.
military family as well.
And I never thought about the impact that me and my wife being gone for those years. And I tell people, when we were married inside of the military for 18 years. Inside of those 18 years, we were only physically together 9 years. And I never thought about the impact that that could have on the kid, right? Like
It's a no
seeing
fault
that,
abandonment, though, Patrick, because
yeah,
that's how you're supporting your family.
right. But even though it's no fault, that still could play because, like, I was.
Still impacting.
So let me ask you this: you talk about the trauma. Talk to me about the healing. Like, if you have it, how can we get it to where maybe it's not 100%, but maybe we can have it better than we have it now? How do we heal from stuff like that?
Well, you can't change what you don't know or understand. So the first thing is know what the top 10 childhood traumas are. And at my website, which is my name, rianamilne.com, you can get 4 free love tests. And one of them is the childhood trauma checklist. And there's also a free ebook on there that goes into childhood trauma more. So help yourself to those things. But you have to know what the top 10 are. And then you have to like identify, okay, yes, I did go through this. I did go through that. And it's not about blame or shame, right? We're not looking to blame our parents or feel ashamed that we've experienced this because childhood trauma is not our fault. But the first thing is recognition. And this is what I do in a discovery session with people that want to meet with me. And then, to understand it goes through 3 generations. So if you had childhood trauma, so did your parents, and so did their parents. So it definitely goes through the lineage. But once you know this work and you heal from this work, then you can stop the progression of the childhood trauma. So knowledge is power in this case. So I do a lot of what I call my mindset for success system. It's trademarked and it's through my coaching, not therapy, because coaching is a team effort. So I created from my research a 150-page workbook, real simple to do, check marks, yes, no, short answers, and how they answer it is how I know how to help them. Because it really depends on what traumas they experience and what level of severity, which is a 1 to 10 severity.
Right.
But then I know what to focus on just from that discovery session. So then it's like I said, it's very individualized. And then we go through that working as a team. And the first part of the training is first healing the biology, trauma in the brain and the body. I use vitamin therapy. None of my clients are on psychotropic drugs, which are like anti-anxiety, antidepressants that can all be healed naturally. Right. All my clients do meditate. It's one of the best things for the brain. This is what meditation does, 15 minutes a day. It lowers anxiety, depression, your cortisol, fight, flight, freeze response, and blood pressure, increases focus, dopamine, and serotonin levels of the brain, which are your happy chemicals. So all my people meditate, including me, 15 minutes a day. And the effects, the positive effects are 8 to 9 hours. So we always do our meditation in the morning. And people feel like a difference in their bodies, a sense of calm, a sense of peace within 4 to 7 days. It's amazing. So I use a lot of holistic treatments, like I said, vitamin therapy, meditation, mindsets, tools. The research shows 8 out of 10 people have 8 out of 10 negative fear-based thoughts. So we totally switch that. And we have very positive, empowering thoughts. So, and then the second part is if you're single, how to date and attract the love you deserve. So someone who's also emotionally healthy and conscious. And if you're in a relationship, how to sustain that over time. So there's a lot to be taught. My clients work with me from 4 to 6 months. And
Yeah.
the level where I am is called CCTP2,
Okay.
Certified Clinical Trauma Professional Advanced. So there's a lot of tools in my toolbox. And it really depends what someone is presenting to me of what
Yeah.
I would choose to use.
Okay. Let me ask you this. I know I've started businesses before, right? And my mind has it played out one way, and with you starting your business, trying to help people get them back to going. What was one of the biggest misconceptions you had when you started this?
Well, I have several businesses. Businesses are one of
Wow.
my hobby. So I opened in year 2000 Therapy by the Sea, which is a typical counseling psychotherapy model, practice covered by insurance. And I never thought the insurance companies would refuse to give us a raise year after year after year. After 17 years, they only gave us a $5 per session raise. And I'm watching my daughter and incredibly talented son-in-law, Preston Smiles and Alexi Panos are their names, grow this incredible coaching business. And I'm taking the traditional route. And I'm like, I always liked the educational model better than the therapy model. I'm going to be a coach. So I went total coaching in
Yeah.
2017. And that's after I wrote my manuals and my number one best-selling books, Live and Love Beyond Your Dreams. So I wrote those, wrote the manuals. And like, now I have a curriculum, because if I'm going to go coaching, I'm going to coach, with a great arsenal of tools.
Yeah.
So then I went 2017, right after our Hurricane Irma. We call that winds of change. It's like time to go coaching, close the office. I'm going to go total internet. And, I love the coaching model, but I never knew how hard it would be to go global,
Mm,
because you're competing with the world now, just not Delray Beach, Florida, so you're trying to get out there against millions of coaches and what will make you different and what stands out.
yeah.
So I always knew education. People will invest in somebody who's properly trained and really educated. And there's a lot of people just open their door and say, hey, I'm a coach because COVID happened, right? So,
Yeah.
but people will invest with someone who's highly educated and invested in themselves. Like I've had 12 coaches to get me to global status. It's
Mm,
just not overnight, and it's a lot of work. People think they can just open their doors and become quick overnight or just do a tape a day on the internet.
yeah.
No, it's like, what are you here educating and what are your results? So having incredible testimonials, and I have hundreds and hundreds of testimonials of how lives have changed with my
Yeah.
system. So it does take a long time to build that up. So it takes what I call the 8 Ds of success. If you want a little tidbit here, you said, life lessons. This one's from my
Give it
dad.
to me.
You said you had your granddaddy, teaching you life lessons. So this one's from my dad. And he always said, hun, if you have the 5 Ds, you can do anything. Well, since I've always had my own businesses, at 10 years, I had a model and talent agency in school from 26 to 36. So I've been studying mindset since 16 years old and using my father's 5 Ds, and I've added 3 more. So the first one is decide what you want to do. It's really important. Really make a solid decision and believe in it and say, I'm going to go for it. I'm not going to quit. So decide. Determination. Be determined that this is what you're going to do. Dedicate the hours and time that it takes to make it succeed. Devotion is the spiritual base, faith base in yourself and the higher power that you can do this even during the tough times.
Mm,
Dare to dream. And it says, and babe, dream big, which is nice. And, I've been featured in Forbes magazine and I was just on Disrupt magazine, and my son-in-law was there too. I'm like, great, it's in the family tradition now.
yeah.
Influencer Daily, Wealth Insider magazine named me one of the top 10 coaches to follow in 2022. And then the Global Trade Chamber nominated me as one of the top 100 successful women in the world. So that's not an overnight thing. This takes that determination, devotion, the faith that I can do this. It's like if my kids can do it, my daughter and son-in-law, I can do it too. But they are all way ahead of me, and I'm so proud of them. They're really amazing. So just doing my own little system and helping as many people as I can. Having the motto of helping to change the way the world loves is my
Yeah.
driving force to have more emotionally healthy, loving, conscious relationships, to date with more love, peace, and empowerment, to share your feelings without fear. So those are some of the things that I teach in helping young people to have the best success in life by teaching mindset, right? So, for example, my daughter Alexi, when she was 5, was sitting there watching the Save the Children commercial in Africa. She goes, Mom, I'm going to go to Africa and save those kids one day. And I'm like, babe, I love that dream. That's so beautiful. I know you will. So when she was 15, her dream was, I want to be a pop singer. That's the time that Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera. And in our neighborhood near Atlantic City, you probably heard the name Rodney Jerkins. He had an open call, Dark Child Records. And out of over 350 girls, Alexi was one of the 2 called back. But also Timberland wanted to produce her, and so did Ja Rule. So she ends up singing on 3 multi-platinum CDs with Ja Rule, travels the world, ends up in Africa, looks down the tour bus and says, now's the time that I want to start the water well. She goes, but Mom, I'm not rich. I'm not famous. You know, I don't know how to do this. I said, you have an incredible heart and you're really smart. You're going to figure it out. And she and her best friend developed a charity called EPIC, Everyday People Initiating Change. And now we have 31 working water wells all over Tanzania, Africa. So, you know, mindset I've taught my kids since they were very young. So and that's all written in the Live Beyond Your Dreams book. And I'm saying, Alexi, write a chapter in there how it works for young people, because then you're already published. And one day you'll want to publish your own book and you already have one out there. So lo and behold, you know, Simon and Schuster signs them to a book deal and she's already lived beyond your dreams, you know. So everything just fell into line and she followed the 5 Ds for success. So another one of the D is drive. When it gets tough, when you want to give up, I always say right to exhaustion. My 400-page book, Love Beyond Your Dreams, is, you know, it's like right to exhaustion, you know, and then you just cut up and say, what do I want to write about today? And the book just comes together. Discipline, really disciplined. So those D's have like been my driving force for me and my kids, my 2 daughters, and hopefully my 6 grandchildren will grow up with the same philosophy and become leaders too. That's how the generational pull changes.
You are out there implementing the change that you want to see. I love hearing the success stories, especially being a dad. I love to see my kids succeed even more so than me succeeding.
That's our role. Right. That is our role as parents, right?
No lie. And listening to you and the smile on your face when you talked about your kids being successful was brighter than it was when you were talking about yourself. That is amazing. So good for you, Mom. Good for you.
That's sweet. Thank you.
You're very welcome. I'm going to toot your horn a little bit. One of the top 10 coaches of 2022.
Yeah, that was a nice.
So that was from. Yeah, I bet. So that's from. I got that. If I'm not mistaken, from Health Insider magazine. Is that what
Wealth Insider magazine? Yeah.
Talk to me when they told you when they called or they emailed you and they told you that you won a 10. How'd you feel?
I thought it was amazing. I'm like, where's my daughter and son-in-law? They should be in there. You know. You don't know where somebody hears your work or sees a post or, you know, where that comes from, you know, where they say, I love what you're doing in the world. And they might have really related to the childhood trauma work that I do. And that's usually what people hear. And that's how I get hired. You know, people say, well, how do you get out there as a coach? Are you posting every day on social media? I'm like, I never get a client from social media. I post here and there when I have time, but mostly it's from they hear me speak and they're like, oh my God, I recognize I have, you know, abandonment issues. I had verbal abuse growing up. I had emotional abuse and neglect. I'm a foster care child. I was bullied in school. I had sibling trauma, like whatever the top 10 traumas are that they might have experienced, you know, and that they understand like, wow, and this is why I'm struggling now, that I have ongoing anxiety or depression or, you know, repetitive relationships that don't work. And I've got to heal this, you know, jealousy and control comes from this, or, being impulsive. And that is
Mm.
one of the top things that ruins a couple's relationship. It's like, I
Yeah.
want that shiny red sports car. My wife will just have to deal with it. Well, and then you're struggling with your budget for 2 years. And
Yeah.
so impulse or perfectionism, being critical, controlling,
Mm.
codependency. Many
Mm.
addictions come from this. So there's so many things. I mean, I have this chart, this of
Oh,
everything that childhood trauma impacts. And then, of course,
yeah.
for our young people too, the ability to learn. So
Mm.
making sure they have a peaceful, loving environment will really increase, and very interactive with the parents. Like, get your kids off the machines, read to
Yeah.
them,
Yeah.
take them to nature parks, to
Mm.
get them out from the TV. And then maybe one show a day, then you're doing something together. To travel with them. My kids grew up part-time in Erie, Pennsylvania. Well, every summer I'd take them to New York to just see 3 or 4 Broadway shows.
Yeah.
Then it's like, where do you want to travel to? So I had a timeshare, and it's like, where do you want to go? My one daughter's, I want to go to Paris. I'm like, then we're going to Paris.
Mm.
I want to go to Greece and see my history. Yes, you should know your history. Let's go to Greece. So
Yeah.
exposing them to cultures and different people and food and the arts. This is how you grow worldly, self-evolved, confident children. Then
Mm.
they don't say, I couldn't do that. It's like, sure, if they could, why couldn't you?
Yeah.
But you have to
Yeah.
train. If you want to be a singer, you take singing lessons. If you
Yeah.
want to be a dancer, you take dance lessons. So it's just the belief mindset of, can they do it? And do they believe in themselves? And that comes from the parent. So how you do raise your children is really important. And, there's never reason to yell at a child. I hear sometimes parents say, you should know better. Well, no, they shouldn't,
Mm.
because they're young, and men are not into their mature mindset till about age 26, women age 23. So
Yeah.
our job as parents is to teach. And the word discipline is from the Bible. It means to teach.
Mm.
So with my children, if they made a mistake, I would say, okay, this is a mistake. What 2 to 3 things can you do to fix the mistake? And I'd make them
Yeah.
think about it. And with Star Chart is something I use with my children. It was from the research of the Better Baby Institute outside of Philadelphia. I'm from the suburb of Huntington Valley, so I grew up in Philly. And I went there to buy materials to teach my kids things. And they said, if you do positive parenting, they do 5 chores a day for 6
Mhm.
days. One day's a day off, and on
Yeah.
Friday's payday.
Mm.
So the little things could be, take your shoes and backpack back to your room. It could be, take the trash out on Wednesday night, or an older boy, cut the yard on Wednesdays. But you're teaching them to be responsible without you nagging them. And
Yeah.
then when the chores are done, they get a reward for doing it. And you can just put the chart where they can see it.
Yeah.
And if they get at least 24, they get a bonus for the week. So if they're older kids, they get a salary, $5, $10 a week. And that way, if they say, Dad, I want to go to the movies, great, you earned the money, go ahead and use it, instead of, here
Yeah.
you go. And then they're standing there with $20 at the food stand. Wow, if a popcorn and soda is 18, or I could just get a water and a candy for 10, I'll save 10. Now
Yeah.
they're learning the value of money because they're working
Yeah.
for it.
I
So
like
the
that.
littlest child can do smaller chores, and the older ones do more difficult, responsible chores.
Yeah.
And this was similar to the star charts I had in my school office.
Okay.
Where if they got a good grade or a good mention from the teacher for the morning, and they did well at recess, and they didn't get into trouble or bully anyone at recess, and then afterwards, so the most problematic kids, I had them on 3 stars a day, and then they could go down to 2, morning and afternoon,
Yeah.
and then 1. And then there was the treasure chest. If you got a whole
Mm.
week of stars, you can pull out a couple things from the treasure chest. Now, that's initially called extrinsic awards, where you get a thing.
Yeah.
And then what happens is they make more friends, and they're getting better grades, and they're feeling better about themselves. So now you have intrinsic awards. Their self-esteem is up.
Yeah.
So this is how, and then it was the same with my girls. Like, I didn't mean for them to be science experiments, but They're very responsible. You go to the homes today, they're clean, they're in order, they can sit down and do their work. They're very focused.
Yeah.
And of course, a good report card got a better bonus. For getting good grades, but you weren't nagging them all the time. So you take the nagging out of the household, they get their own rewards for being self-reliant. They're coming up when they make a mistake, the two solutions. So when they're adults, it's like, okay, I made a mistake on the app I designed, so I could do this, or that. Now they're solution focused, not victim mentality. Oh, why me? We got to get people away from that. Like, I can do this, and how can I do it? And so mindset is imperative for life success.
That's it. Riana, this is the thing. I could sit here and I could talk to you all day because I enjoy this, because it's a lot of stuff that people just don't know, But at the end of every show, I play a game with all of my guests. And the game is called Pick One. So it's not to throw you under the bus. It's not to minimize.
Throw it at me.
All right, here we go. Out of all your accolades, everything that you've done and you've earned, you only keep one. What are you keeping?
My role as a mother.
That was too easy. Okay. Your books, your podcast, which one are you keeping?
Well, I have 120 shows on my podcast, but I love my books. My books are from really deep research. Love Beyond Your Dreams was written when I experienced the love trauma and went to 7 therapists to get help. No one heard of childhood trauma back then. No one heard of love relationship trauma. And it's like, that's led me to my research. So Love Beyond Your Dreams is a catalyst book. I was like, oh my God, I have to take this message to the world. Like, I can't believe this. So I think that was my big aha moment. And I was just like writing from source, like crazy. Got to 400 pages. I'm like, oh my God, I got to stop. It's getting too big. And then I wrote the notebooks, one for singles, one for couples. But I'd say that was my catalyst. And that went to #1 bestseller on Amazon. So really proud of that book.
All right. So we're gonna take book over podcast.
Yeah. But my podcasts are pretty good too.
But you can't keep that. We're gonna take with books. Last one. If I give you the phrase, "This is my moment," what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
Every day is your moment. Every day is to wake up and decide today is going to be important. Today I'll reach another goal. Today I can make someone happy. Today I can make a difference. Today I can love unconditionally. Today I can share my kindness. So I believe, life is really a gift. We're all meant to do something here in this world that makes a difference, even if you're just a good neighbor. It doesn't have to be anything super profound. As long as you're sharing your heart and soul with the world and unconditional love for all humans, like, that's so important in today's world. I just can't. And I have an interracial family, and, I'm like, I love them all. I said, I'm the United Nations family, and I love it. And, and I just, if everyone could have this kind of unconditional love, our world would just be such a more beautiful, peaceful place. So
that's it.
Yeah.
Riana, we are done. Don't go anywhere. I'm going to close the show, then we'll talk a little bit, and then I'll let you go for the day. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, Patrick.
Hang on really quick. Hey, guys, here's the deal. Riana said it. If you want to be, you have to train for what you want to be. It's all right. You don't have to save the world at one swoop. You can grow into it. You can grow into your success. But you got to train to be what you want to be. And at the end of the day, go get it!
Bringing positivity, making changes for the better. Cause it's all about growth, all about success. We wanna see you rise, wanna see you at your best. Hey, keep it rolling, we gotta keep going. There ain't no stopping it.